Okay, welcome to the start of a kind of a new anime review series, but this is basically a re-review. Reviewing it again. Yeah, it's not basically starting off from scratch per se, and I'm not deleting other videos in this series. This is something basically not like a reboot per se, more like basically kind of like my re-review, basically reviewing it again. What am I re-reviewing, mind you? You're probably thinking. One Piece! Because I feel like it, that's why. This part, I'm actually not doing an entire frickin' season. Now, if you watch the original first video I did for One Piece, I discussed 61 episodes in one video. I'm not doing that again. So, with these, basically, it might take me a little bit longer to cover one season of a show. This one I'm covering roughly the first two arcs of the series. Romance Dawn and Orange Town. Romance Dawn is in introduction to a whole boatload of characters. The one thing that Oda has in common with Kiri Toriyama is that when he starts a story arc, he introduces a whole boatload of characters. Not like one or two per se, a lot of characters, and I do mean a lot. In the very first arc of the series, we're introduced to Luffy, the star of the series. Now, of course, I'm watching the English dub, so it's, yes, this is Funimation, not for kids. I have heard the 4 kids dub is actually pretty bad. And I heard they did dub up into the Skypiea arc. Funimation has dubbed, as of recently, they start dubbing the Punk Hazard arc, which they've dubbed roughly the first 9 episodes of it. Now, this anime review series will stop at where this particular review will stop basically where the dub is currently at. That's as far as I'm going to go with it. And the only way I'll continue watching continue doing this is when they release more dub episodes. Yeah, it's only talking about the dub. Luffy is voiced by the awesome Colin Clickenbeard, and some of these other voice actors. Now, 2 of the characters who appear in this first arc of the series are also voiced by really awesome voice actors. Rono Zoro, voiced by Christopher Sabat. Yep, I have met this guy. He's an awesome person to meet. And of course, we have Nami, who has one brief glimpse of Luffy back in the pilot, but they don't officially meet until the very next arc of the series. Yeah, and she's voiced by Lucian Christian. Yep. Aside from these 3 characters, this arc introduces to Alvida and her pirates. Though after the first episode, she's not seen again until, there's actually a couple more arcs she appears in this first season, and then she disappears for a long period of time. Yeah, whenever she shows up, basically after her second appearance, she's always with Buggy. Yeah, he shows up for her next arc. Aside from her, we also use Takobi, who's in pretty much the first few episodes of the series. I usually like the first 3 that he leaves. And he himself is not seen again until episode, I guess 4, 6, I think. Yeah, he's not seen until episode 68. Yeah, covering basically a cover story. Now, here's a strange thing when it comes to this particular series. Now, like with Raid Master, the first episode does not adapt the first chapter of the series. Normal procedure when it comes to adapting a manga is that you start with the very first chapter of the series. Not One Piece. Nope, One Piece did not do that. Naruto did, so did Bleach. And of course, One Piece is famously part of, in the 2000s, part of the Holy Shonen Trinity. And here's kind of the interesting thing. Naruto ended roughly, believe it or not, Naruto, when it started the very same year this anime started, which is back in 1999. And last year was the 20th anniversary of the series. Yep. Also, I should point out, though, when I originally did this review series, I did this in my old bed at my old house roughly almost 3 years ago. Yes, that's why I initially did it. And it took me, initially when I reviewed the series, because I was bench watching, I didn't have a job back then. It took me a month and a half just to review this series. The cover, which was at the time over 800 episodes. Yeah, when I covered the series initially 3 years ago, it was during the Whole Cake arc. Yeah. Of course, I was reading the manga prior to that. Yep. Now, technically, the first chapter was not adapted to episode 4 as a flashback sequence. Yep, a flashback. Now, I'll get to that one soon. Now, aside from the few characters, we also introduced the red-haired Shanks, who shows up in the initially was essentially put as the original pilot. By the way, the character who's responsible for how Shanks currently is, like basically the guy who shows in that pilot, he never appears in the series again. Yeah, as far as I know, he just disappears. He never appears unless Alvida reappears. Let's see, this arc introduces us to Axeham Morgan and his idiot son. Yeah, a guy who's a spoiled brat. Though he initially appears in a few episodes, he of course becomes a recurring character in the series, along with Kobe. He, of course, after this arc does not return to the cover story arc, which happens later on in Season 2. And after that, he does not reappear again in the series until, I kid you not, until way into, I think it's actually until Season like 10 or 12, when he finally returns to the damn anime. Let's see, what else? Yeah. The first episode is quite interesting. Luffy, of course, is basically not seen until about 5 minutes into the episode. The first character he introduced to is Alvida and Kobe. Where they're on her ship, and she likes, who is the most beautiful woman to see? And of course, they're forced to say, Alvida. Despite the fact Alvida at this point, by the way, her look in this episode, the only time this look appears again is in flashbacks. You see, Alvida is an overweight woman who thinks she's the most beautiful woman in the ocean. By the way, when she returns, she becomes smoking hot. Oh my gosh, and I can't wait to basically talk about her look and basically her change. Though she does keep her hat. Yeah, she's actually one of very few characters in the series to wear a cowboy, or at least a cowgirl hat. Yeah, she's one of two I can think of. The other, of course, being Nico Robin, though she initially stops wearing it after like first couple appearances, but initially she wore her cowboy hat for cowgirl hat for a long time. Alvida still wears it. Yeah, though I'll get to the reason why. So basically, Kobe, who is a cabin boy, he just basically looks for some stuff to steal, and of course comes across a barrel, which was fished out by this cruise ship. Yes, this is a passenger ship. And you're thinking, a passenger ship. Now, modern day, basically, passenger ships look completely different. The interior looks very similar to how it looks nowadays, but the exterior looks completely different. Yeah, here's the thing about when it comes to the technology, how people look at the series. Mostly put, the ships are basically taken from sort of in a way like old 17th century style technology, and here's the thing: people talk to each other via transponder snails, though they don't initially appear in these two arcs. No, transponder snails do not appear until a little bit later on. I would say they'll appear for quite some time in the series. I think it's not until toward the end of like season 1 we have basically transponder snails. Yep. Yeah, basically, people talk to each other via snails. How bizarre of a concept that is. Yeah. Now, in case you're wondering who Luffy is based upon, Luffy, from what I've heard, is based upon a real-life pirate who is very similar to Luffy in the fact that he has no interest in gold. He's going to be a pirate, but he has no interest in gold. Nami is a thief. When she's seen, she's basically in this first arc, she has zero interaction with Luffy. You see her, she kind of sees Luffy, but she doesn't really see him. Yeah, it's kind of like that their time when they see each other, it's written off as basically like so brief of a second they might see each other. Like, after Luffy basically beats up Alvida, basically punches her in the freaking gut, sends her flying, and of course she's sitting in a little bit later. As it gets Kobe, of course he tells Alvida's, hey, find me a boat. He's like, yes sir. And Kobe come with him, and he sail off into the very next episode. Of course, they mentioned in the first episode, like showing us as Zoro. He's like, Zoro, who's that? He's like, Pirate Hunter Zoro. Like, okay, is he strong? He's like, yeah. I want him on my crew. Yep. And then at the end of the first episode, we get Zoro's debut, where he's strung up. No, not by his neck, by his arms. In this sort of like crucifix style thing, that apparently that's actually a punishment for hitting Hippo. Yep, because Hippo was being a jerk and interrupting his meal, so he hits him, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to string you up, and for 30 days he'll let you go. Yeah, he's actually lying. He never actually intended to do that. So, Luffy finds him, he's like, hey, you going to join my crew? He's like, what? What are we joining your crew for? And then, of course, there's a little girl making some rice balls. By the way, after this arc, this little girl and her mom never reappear in the series. Get Axe Hand Morgan does. Oh yeah, he actually returns in the third arc of the series in a flashback. Yeah, he returns in a flashback, which explains how he got this current look. He's called Axe Hand Morgan because his hands are placed by an axe, and he's got this sort of mouth girder around his face. But that's him for it. That's Oda for you designed it that way. Also, when they show off the mayor of Luffy's town in episode 4, he looks similar to another character that pops up in, I believe it was the Little Garden arc. Yes. It's actually season 3, mind you. Yes, I'm not really sure why. Now, that's probably Oda for you reusing character designs. He's known for doing this a lot, where he intentionally reuses a character design to change up the clothes up and make a character a little bit older. Yeah, he does this a lot. A lot of the time for absolutely no reason at all. Maybe because he forgets to use them. A lot of the time, some characters look a lot like Nami, or a little bit like another character who appears to be like, I'll get to her. And she's actually, and her voice actor is actually Colleen's like best friend. That's what she explained in the interview I heard. Yeah. So they arrive at the island, and of course they meet Zoro. And little girl tries to give him the rice balls, but Hippo intercepts them, but spits them because they mixed it with sugar instead of salt, which I never initially knew that. So Luffy basically asks Luffy after he stops on the ground, and Luffy's like, man, this is gross. He's like kind of like really hungry, so he eats. He's like, man, this is actually really good. And he does try the food the following episode. So basically, Luffy spends Luffy okay, we need to go find Zoro's swords. Well, sword, mind you. Of course, he's 3 swords, and he just grabs all because he knows which one is his. So Zoro explains, yeah, I use 3 swords. So he frees them, and then of course he proceeds to okay, I'll just team up with you. And Luffy, of course, beats up Axe Hand, and the Marines there actually are pretty happy with him beating up Axe Hand Morgan. And so he's like, so after giving some food, basically, the Marines show up and says, okay, we thank you for taking down Captain Morgan, because you know how much of a jerk he is. In exchange for reporting you to HQ, we would like you to, basically Luffy and Zoro, we'd like you guys leave immediately. And Luffy and Zoro are like, sure, no problem with that. And they think Kobe is with him until basically Luffy kind of provokes him. And starts a fake fight with him on purpose. And then he's like, I wish you were Marines. He's like, okay. Maybe it's information about pirates. So he joins up. And he's never seen it again until the second season of the show. Yep. That's last seen of Kobe. But in story, he does not return until post Edo's lobby. Yeah, he does not return in story for quite some time. Oh, and when he returns, he looks completely different. Despite the fact in show he's probably been gone for 11 years. And yeah, it is something though. Over the course, they say, it's been some time. It's probably maybe 6 months for him to grow that freaking tall. I will talk about his new look afterwards. Yep. So they leave on Luffy's boat, the one he got in the previous in the first episode series, and then they ride off. The 4th episode is basically just Zoro and Luffy chillaxing, basically looking for someplace to go, and Luffy is not good with navigating. So then we have a abrupt flashback sequence, which kind of also ties into the next arc of the series, Orange Town, which also sees Nami basically just coming across 3 members of Buggy's pirates. By the way, she basically was looking for the map of the Grand Line, but was stolen by Buggy, and it was initially kept at Morgan's safe, but was stolen by Buggy. Basically, set up this next arc. And the flashback is simply this. Basically, the flashback explains like how Luffy ate the Gum Gum fruit. Yeah, they explain devil fruits are like stuff from like these mythological fruits. And Luffy was initially the first devil fruit used to introduce in the series. Buggy's the obvious next one. Oh yes, Buggy's next one. After him, I think as far as I know, I don't think there's the next. I would say the next like devil fruit user I can think of was probably not introduced until I'm trying to think. I think it was not until the Brockwork saga. Basically, the saga starts at the end of season 1 and goes straight through season 4. Yeah, that's when I introduced more Tale for users, but Luffy and Buggy are like the only ones at this point, anyways. But more introduced later. So the flashback is simply how Luffy basically ate the Gum Gum. He basically ate it, and they got mad at Shanks. Yeah, and we also see for the first time Ysep, the father of Usopp. Yeah, he makes his debut in the series. He makes occasional appearances in the series, mostly hanging out with Shanks some island, someplace. They don't explain where it is. And if you listen to his voice, it's Sonny Surratt. 'Cause why not? They're both father and son, so why not have father and son voiced with the same person? My guess is the reason why Funimation did that, and this is my personal theory, because it worked well with Dragon Ball Z, it should work well with One Piece. And it's perfectly fine. And as far as I can tell, I think Sonny Surratt is like the only one of like 2 or 3 people who actually voices more than one character. At least Sagas sticks to one character in the series, unlike Z and Dragon Ball, where he voices half the freaking characters of the franchise. He still does it in Super, by the way. And in this series, just Zoro. And nobody else. Yeah, as far as I can tell, he doesn't voice anybody else. Not even Colleen voices any character aside from Luffy. Or even Eric Vale. I think maybe Luigi Christian. I think she may have voiced one of her character series, but yeah. But they kind of hint at basically Nami's backstory. Well, after a little bit of this. Basically, there's this man who basically disrespects Shanks. Shanks is like, nah, it's perfectly fine. Despite the fact he got a bottle smashed over his head, and the fact that the bar he was eating at was sliced up. And, okay, I get the fact he was not worried about, because it was explained a little bit later that he's not upset about basically beer drinking on him. I would think he'd be upset by basically tearing up the bar. Oh, and here's a strange thing. The bartender name, I think her name is Miki, I think her name is. And here's the thing. There is a rumor in the series that he and her were a couple, and later on in the series it's revealed she had a baby, and it's heavily implied it might be Shanks' baby. Yes, as far as I know, they don't really say if it is. Shanks, of course, also has a 3 slash mark on his face. In case you're wondering, when in the world did they bother to explain? Now, in the show, did they ever show how he got that scar? No, but they do explain who gave him the scar. The scar itself is never actually explained in the series until actually much later. It's not until they introduce Whitebeard in the series. Yeah, it's done by another character who's one of the current Emperors of the Sea, who did make an appearance during the Wano arc. Yeah, and let's see. He also loses his arm, saving Luffy from a Sea King. He also is implied he has intimidation. This is later revealed that he actually has Color of the Supreme King, aka Haki. Yes. Though they introduce it a little bit later after this, but it's later revealed what actually this ability is that causes him to get good intimidation over a freaking Sea King. It's Haki. That's simply put what it is. It's not explained until, I think it's not actually explained until I would say before Saba Odi is when they explain what Haki is. Yep. So, yeah, he loses his arm saving Luffy. And this flashback has been shown several times over the course of the series. The most recent time this flashback shown in this initial episode was actually shown in the Reverie arc, where he explains Shanks' backstory. Yep. Well, they do explain, but there's a little more Shanks flashback with Shanks, also in the Orangetown arc. But yeah, in this episode, he only appears mostly in flashback. He does appear present a little bit later. So basically, Luffy sees a bird because he's hungry, so he tries to take up a bird. Basically, has his mouth on him, and Zoro follows him via basically rowing. Comics got 3 people who were shipwrecked because Nami took their boat. So basically, he brings with him when he comes to the island where Orangetown is. And we do get a little bit of backstory on the town itself, where it was founded 40 years prior to events of the series. And the mayor basically is old friends with the owner of this pet shop. Yes, a pet shop where it's guarded by a dog. By the way, this dog shop only appears for about 2 episodes before it's destroyed. Yeah, this arc introduces to Buggy and his basically used the Buggy pirates. Most noteworthy, basically introduced to the Beast Tamer and his chief of staff. His Beast Tamer introduced first along with his lion Richie. Yeah, where he actually fights Luffy. After a good period of time, initially first Luffy runs into Nami, and Nami convinces him that Luffy's his boss. Later on, she does become work for him. And after he beats up basically his pirates, he just basically falls into a house that he just happily eats some food. And like, you know what, Crew's like, of course she reveals she hates pirates, and she's needed to steal 100 million berries. Yeah, that's actually not explained till later. Yeah, basically Nami, her referencing this, that is a mentioning of stuff for the Arlong Park arc, which doesn't happen until 3 arcs after this one. Yep. And of course, Luffy meets Buggy. Well, first she initially ties him up and puts him in the cage. He spends like a couple episodes in this cage before he's freed by Richie and fights him. And after Richie destroys the pet food shop, yeah, Luffy goes up to the Beast Tamer and proceeds to beat the living crap out of him, burning down the pet shop. Because it's revealed this dog thinks that his pet shop is his treasure. So, yeah. And then Chief of Staff takes on Zoro, which Zoro had been stabbed by Buggy when he first encountered him. Yeah, it takes a while for his wound to heal. Which he's actually wounded for a good period of time. He's actually stays wounded up until... Yeah, he's wounded for quite a period of time. He's even, like he even gets wounded during the arc that comes 2 arcs after this one. He's always... Seems like every arc he's in, he's always get wounded somehow. But he doesn't take treatment seriously. That's how Zoro is. By the way, I should mention their attires. Luffy's outfit is straw hat, obviously, red vest, blue shorts with like a rough, fluffy trim, and flip-flop sandals. He would maintain this look up until time skip, though he occasionally would switch out the color of he would switch out different color vests and shorts. Mostly put, this was his look for the entire Part 1 time skip. Zoro's look. Basically a white t-shirt, a green, belt, which he actually does maintain this after time skip, black pants, black boots, and carries around 3 swords, one of whom have a white handle on it. Nami's look here is simply like a t-shirt, shorts, and she carries on a baton that basically replaced by a different baton made by Usopp later on in the Baroque saga of the series. Yeah, Luffy, of course, and here's the thing. Buggy has a thing called the Buggy Ball. Yep, the Buggy Ball. Which is input a special cannonball that causes a lot of damage. They should use it in a town, they try to use it on Luffy. And of course, it gets briefly turned on them. Eventually, after a long, grueling battle, which only takes 1 episode, basically Luffy's B&B is basically kind of dirty tactics. One point goes to Nami for stealing his treasure. So Luffy proceeds to give him a low blow, kick him right in the balls. Yep. And then he proceeds to mess with his foot, takes his foot out of his shoe, he tickles it, and he pulls at the skin of the foot. Yeah. Eventually, Buggy is defeated by his own devil fruit, the Chop Chop fruit, which is explained the reason why he also brings up Shanks and why he hates him. Also takes period of time to slice up Luffy's hat. He does get fixable later, so don't worry about that. So, it's revealed that Buggy and Shanks, part of the same crew, they were pirates in training. Yeah, this is actually revealed to be Gold Roger's crew. Yes, Gold Roger, the original king of the pirates, whose only appearance is mostly in flashback and like appearing in the opening credits. He does initially kind of appear in image, kind of in the main anime, but he never appears in present day. Why? Because he was killed 22 years before the start of the series. So, yeah, there's no reason for him to appear. Other people have since talked about him, and they reveal one character is actually related to him. Yep, and he's related to Luffy. Of course, he doesn't show up until, I think, not until the Alabasta arc. That's what he finally shows. Don't worry, I'll get to him. Yeah, it reveals how he got the Chop Chop fruit. Basically, instead of eating it like everyone else does, he just swallows it by accident while trying to hide the fact he ate the devil fruit. Yep, while he basically couldn't get this treasure on the ocean floor, and since he can't swim best, that's the reason why he hates Shanks. So, he's defeated by Nami of all people, who ties up his parts and attempts to reassemble himself. He's only like tiny little hands, tiny feet, little midsection. Yeah, it's not much there. And he's like this for until he returns in Buggy's reunited with his crew arc, which doesn't happen for a long period of time, actually. Yeah, he makes return in the anime episode 46, a two-parter. Yep, so Luffy, Nami, and Zoro just run off. And of course, Luffy leaves part of the treasure behind to repair to the town. The mayor of the town is seen that he does do some stuff. He's mostly there for exposition. But after this arc, he never appears again in the series. And after Luffy defeats Buggy, he gets a thank you from him. And of course, they ride off into the sunset at the end of the particular arc. And that's it. Buggy himself will return later on, but he's mostly a recurring character, a very popular recurring character. People love where he showed up. As far as I know, I think his last appearance in the manga was actually in the current arc when they reveal they took away the whole thing of the warlord system, which I'm not really a big fan of the English translation. The original Japanese said I've heard one of the seven. I've heard warlord over what they said. Yep. But all in all, good start for the series. Though I thought it was weird they adapted chapter 1 for episode 4 while mixing in like 7 and 8. Yeah. But initially put, yeah. And here's the strange thing, if you read this in the manga, like the first arc is so short, it like takes up like a book and a half. Same thing with the second arc of the series. Orange Town, kind of the same thing. Starting with Syrup Village, it's kind of like, really kind of like, now next series, Syrup Village, is only like 10 episodes. Yeah, these early arcs are really, really short. It's not until we get to, I would say the first really long arc of the series, at this point, is not until they reach, I'd say Alabasta. That one's a really lengthy arc. Yep. That, that's simple where they go up to, but that's like the longest arc. But Outland Park is quite long, but it's only 14 episodes. But yeah, great set of episodes. They recommend people who are fans of One Piece. Start here, but it might take you a while to get through the series. Okay, so that's it for Speculative View. I have roughly 2 more videos I want to do. One, of course, will be a review of My Comic Corner and newest chapter, Fire Force. Okay, see you next video. Bye.